Should we consider championships in the greatness conversation? Now let me kind of elaborate on that. Should we, not to get in the greatness conversation, should you have to have championships to be considered great?
In today's day and age, I think you do.
Okay.
But back when Marino was playing, I don't think so.
I still think you had to get that monkey off your back to get a championship, because we saw Steve Young do it when he won his title. Take the monkey off his back.
Well, of course.
We saw John Elway do it when he won his title. But
I think in today's day and age, in order to be great, you're gonna have to have a championship. Because who in today's day and age is great?
Moms. Oh, he's got a championship.
Kansas City's got 2, the Raiders don't.
Okay, so let's put it this way. Phillip Rivers. Is Phillip Rivers great? He has no title.
I don't think he's that great.
But do you think him winning one championship would make him any better than what he is now?
Well, yeah, because I mean, you won a championship.
Okay.
So obviously it would make you better than you are now.
I think it depends on your sport.
It's like, am I a fat ass right now? If I go lose weight in 5 weeks, am I still fat ass?
Yeah, but you're still great either way. You could just be a greater person if you feel healthier, but either way, you're still great.
Vince said, "Shut the fuck up." No.
Elevate those around you. Rivers, no. Either way, no. I'm using him as an example, but yeah. Okay, so Rivers. Okay, so Dan Marino's a perfect example. Is Dan Marino great? Yes.
Yeah. But that was a different era.
But he's still great now.
Well, he's still looked at as being great now.
So if you had his career right now and could take his whole career,
I wouldn't have student loans.
But I'm saying, if you could take his whole career and play it out in today's age, would he still be considered great? Probably yes. He'd be the great one that didn't win.
Yeah.
Now, would he ever be above, when we got in the greatness conversation, would you be able to say Breeze is better than him because he has that championship? Yes. But if he's not great without a championship, are we putting him in the same category as Andrew Luck? Phillip Rivers? Like, he's greater than Phillip Rivers.
Well, of course he's better.
So you see what I'm saying? You kind of have to be. I just think as a society we depend on too much.
But I don't think you can take it as a whole. I can't see, you have to take each one as they are. You can't lump them all together and say, well, just because Marino's great means Rivers and...
No, Rivers isn't great. I agree. Rivers is not great. Marino is. Based off of his stats and what he did, but how would he separate that much further from Rivers when you're looking back 20 to 30 years when their stats are going to be very similar? Besides the 5,000 yards and the 4,900 in the 40 in the touchdowns. Their stats would be very similar. Well, let's see. Let's see.
You gotta lead in some kind of stat to be great. Filippo. Racers.
Okay, wait, okay. So hold on. While we're talking that, Vince, I got a question for you real quick. Eli Manning. Eli Manning's had 2 rings. You can't tell history of the NFL without Eli Manning, but he is not great at all. You can't, because what are you going to do? Talk about the 17, 18-1 team without Eli Manning? If you go in the last,
what you said was you can't talk about NFL history without Eli Manning.
I'm sorry, you can't tell the story of the NFL in the last 20 years without including Eli Manning. Because that's 18-1 season. So that's where I kind of draw the line. Like, do we put too much weight on championships? Because Eli has 2 and he's the most average quarterback ever. He's 117 and 117 as a career. So, Phillip Rivers has 2,000 less yards than Marino. Has 12 less games right now, or 12 less, I'm sorry, 14 less games right now, a full season less, basically, and has 30 less touchdowns and 53 less interceptions. And his record is 123 and 101. His was 147 and 93. So again, 20 years from now, Phillip Rivers and Dan Marino look very similar when you look past history.
Dan Marino played when you could fucking hit somebody.
But they're not going to realize that when you're looking at revisionist history.
Only an idiot's not looking at that.
Well, yeah, but 40 years from now, we might have a lot of idiots. 20 years from now, because it'll be 40
We
years
have a lot of idiots now, but
True.
that doesn't...
So that's what I'm saying, like, Dan Marino's great. We know this. Phillip Rivers isn't. But with the way that generations keep continuing to be played, do you have to have a championship? Because 20 years ago, 40 years ago, Phillip Rivers would not have had those stats.
Today's day and age, I think you need a championship.
Okay. So how do you compare the old ones with today then? Without championships?
Well, back then it was actually football. You
But
could actually knock the shit out of somebody, and instead of this day and age, you throw a blade of grass at a player, and it's a penalty.
Yeah, but if you're comparing the greatest over time, and we only care about championships now, how does he enter that conversation?
What do you mean? There was a different era.
True. So then championships don't matter that much to be great.
In a different area, the championship didn't matter.
But if we did a top 10 greatest quarterbacks, he would probably be on that list. And he doesn't have a ring in any era. He's still considered the greatest.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong at all with that.
I think in football it doesn't matter. I think in football it does not matter. I think because it's so much of a team sport. I think in certain eras, if you... Like Tom Brady has 6 championships. He's the greatest quarterback probably ever because he has 6 championships. And because of his 20-year dominance.
And then you're going to be dominant this year.
But because of that 20 years. But I think if you're in football, especially when you're talking about other people besides quarterbacks, receivers. Randy Moss is one of the greatest receivers of all time and does not have a championship. I think with quarterbacks, you have to win a ring as time goes forward, unless you are an older quarterback. But in this scenario, I think it's just Dan Marino that gets that pass. With Jim Kelly.
Did Bart Starr ever?
Yeah. With the Packers, he beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. But we're not going to put anybody from the 50s and 60s as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. It's just not happening.
How?
It's just not happening.
Why?
Because it's not the same. It's nowhere near the same. It's nowhere near the same. Like, I would have any trouble putting anybody probably from 70 on as the greatest quarterback. When Joe Namath is considered a great quarterback, and he really did not have a great career.
Okay.
Same thing with NBA. There's a cutoff that you have to have in certain sports because it's not the same game. Yes, this game is completely different where you could cream people in the 80s and 90s and now you can't cream anybody at all. So it allows for passing numbers and stuff to go up. It allows for defenses to defenses, if you're looking at a defensive statistics, you sit up there and go, well look, the 85 Bears held them to this, the 2000 Ravens held them to this, or 2001 Ravens held them to this. But you don't have a team that will have that, like those teams. As time goes forward, you have to have a cutoff. You have to have a modern. And at some point in time, I don't think 60s football is anywhere near modern.
Oh, it was 60 years ago.
Yeah, but even then, but 70s and 80s football, even though it's only 40 years ago, it's still more modern than today. More modern than the 60 years ago was. You can look at the game and still see what's going on. Like if you look at the NBA, they call it the modern NBA. They take away Bill Russell. Because that's not fair. There were 16 teams. And he won 11 championships.
You're speaking French.
Okay. So I think quarterbacks, you have to win the title to get in the conversation, unless you do something statistically great like Dan Marino did in his rookie year.
Iverson would have scored 100 every game in the Wilt era.
Oh, easily, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. Iverson would have scored tons of points back in the day. So you have to have some sort of modern era. So I think QBs, you have to win a ring. Or you have to have a statistical season in the very beginning of your career that just allows you to be great from there forth on. Because they'll say, oh, your team wasn't built around, he didn't have great receivers, all this other stuff. But I think that's the only position that matters in the NFL. I think every other position, it's basically...
Every other position is based on stats.
It's all based off of stats. All based off of stats. Yes, winning rings helps. But Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, I still think Randy Moss is a better receiver than Jerry Rice was. I think Jerry Rice is a way better route runner. Way better route runner. Way, but I think that Randy Moss is a matchup nightmare. I also think when that dude was highly motivated, he did things that other receivers could not do. Besides maybe Calvin Johnson and a couple other, just because of his size and his leaping ability and his God-given athletic talent. Like that's Jerry Rice had to bust his ass for everything he had, which is nothing's wrong with that. But if I was picking a receiver right now, I'm taking Randy Moss over Jerry Rice. I know if I'm a quarterback, Randy Moss is going to be open wherever I get it to. I can put it to a spot, Randy Moss will get there. With Randy Moss, I just got to throw it somewhere and he'll get it.
Okay.
In basketball, you have to win a championship.
I don't know.
We're going to talk about that real quick. You have to win a title. I think that is the only sport where championships matter. Yes, you're still great. Like Iverson, I'm a diehard Sixers fan. Iverson is one of the greatest players I've ever seen in my lifetime. But when you stack him against the greatest, at positions, you can start going down the line and be like, well, look, Jordan's got 6, Kobe's got 5. Those are your shooting guards. West has 1, Jerry West. Klay Thompson, which I would never put as one of the greatest, but if people try to say that, 4, 3. Like when you go down there, you start to look at some of your great ones and you just go like, you had to be able to win 1 title. Like Magic Johnson has 4 or 5. Larry Bird has 5, 4 or 5. Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the most dominant centers of all time, has 2. Shaq, what does he have? 4? Yeah, 4. Because in just such an early age, there's so little, there's less people working parts on the basketball court. LeBron James took his team from being one of the worst teams in the league to 3 years later, 4 years later, going to the NBA Finals. He was the number 1 overall pick. 4 years later, he was in the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan never missed the playoffs.
Really?
Yep. And before the Bulls got him, they were not good. Except for when he was with the Wizards. Let me rephrase that. Michael Jordan in a Bulls jersey never missed the playoffs. Kobe Bryant missed the playoffs a couple times, but he still won rings. Tim Duncan, one of the greatest power forwards of all time, 5 rings. Everybody has to win a ring. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain had to win a ring. Because you have so much more of an advantage on the basketball court if you're to use your talent and your athletic ability, and you control so much more on a basketball court if you're great than if you do on a football court or baseball. Baseball, I think baseball you have to have great moments. You don't have to have rings, but you have to have come-through moments.
Yeah. Like Chipper Jones.
Like David Ortiz.
Oh, you almost said his name.
Chipper Jones. Like David Ortiz. Like Josh Gibson with the Dodgers. Like in baseball, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but you remember moments.
Yeah.
More than you remember the actual game, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
So to chalk it up, I really think that it depends on the sport.
I think it's a yes and no.
Yeah.
It's both. I think.
It depends on the sport and it depends on the position.
Yeah.
NBA, 100% you got to win a title. I think John Stockton is one of the greatest point guards of all time, and if I was starting a team right now and I had a point guard to choose, I would probably pick him over him or Magic. John Stockton has no titles. That won't come up in many conversations I have an NBA talk with.
Really?
Yep, because he has no titles. He just happened to run into Jordan twice. Mm-hmm. He also happened to run into the 80 Lakers and the 90s Rockets. The last 2 championships Jordan won was over John Stockton. So I think in the NBA you have to have a title to be considered part of that greatness. Otherwise, you're in that elite tier that is not great. Think in NFL, if you're a quarterback, you have to have a title, or you have to lead us. You have to be statistically. You have to have a title and have statistical greatness. Not just a title, because there are many people that have titles, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback, Trent Dilfer, or Brad Johnson, and then the Baltimore Ravens quarterback in the early.
Wasn't it Garcia?
No, 2000s. That was either Trent Dilfer. That was Trent Dilfer. Brad Johnson was the Tampa Bay Bucks quarterback when they beat you guys. When they beat the shit out of the Raiders in the Super Bowl.
We didn't change the fucking playbook.
Yeah. And you had great players on your team.
They were pissed off.
In MLB, I don't think it matters as much. I think it helps your thing, but I don't think Derek Jeter would have been considered any greater if he didn't have titles. I think it's the moments that you come through it.
Yeah.
And in hockey, I have no fucking clue.
I just like watching the fights.
I love watching the fights. So we're going to transition on that. What are you more excited about going to?
NHL.
You're more excited about the NHL coming back?
Of course. I want to see fights.
Why is that?
I want to see somebody's nose get broke and bleed all over the ice.
So what about the MLB? Are you excited about the MLB coming back at all?
Man, I'm excited about it, but I'm excited about sports coming back in general.
Okay.
But I'm more excited to watch a hockey game and somebody fight.
NBA/WNBA all day for me.
I don't know anything about basketball.
Oh, buddy, but you will. You will. Let me just explain to you why. I just got to get my pictures real quick so I can show you why I'm more excited about this, okay? So, July 30th is the Utah Jazz versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Donovan Mitchell versus Zion Williamson. You know who Zion is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Kawhi Leonard versus LeBron James. That same night. Oh, God, that's going to be lovely. Then we got John Morant versus Damian Lillard. The Celtics versus the Bucks with Jason Tatum versus Giannis. And then we got James Harden versus Luka. This is going to be fabulous. Honestly, I don't watch baseball until the playoffs start, so I don't give a damn about baseball. It's boring. It takes too long. It's not fun.
That's why you drink.
If I gotta drink to enjoy a game, it's not fun to me. I am not really that. I'm excited about hockey because they're going straight into the playoffs. So you know you're gonna have some intense.
I just want to see the fights.
But in basketball, I think basketball is gonna be like playoff atmosphere for the
Kawhi's
first.
going to be on load management.
For the first 8 games, he's not playing it for but like 4 games until the playoffs start. But again, that's going to be something I think that's going to be intriguing. How are they going to have certain players that are injury prone? Are they going to make them chill out and not play all 8 games? When their seeding comes, how are they going to do that? They're going to have a play-in game. But I think for the bottom couple teams, you're going to have playoff basketball right away because it all matters. I think LeBron's going to sit a couple games. I think Anthony Davis will sit a couple days. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, possibly Joel Embiid from the Sixers. But you'll have 8 games, we'll have 2 weeks, and then we're in the playoffs. Now, what do you think is the more exciting playoff format?
What do you mean?
So, like, who do you think has the most exciting playoffs? Do you think baseball has it? Do you think?
Baseball would never win.
Well, if you rank it by playoffs. Rank NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, WNBA //. So who do you think has the worst playoff system, or is the most boring during the playoffs? Most boringest playoffs.
It's MLB.
Okay. So you got MLB. Okay. What do you think is next? Who's fourth? We got NHL, WNBA, NBA, NFL.
Well, putting the WNBA and the NBA together.
Well, you can't because they're two.
It's all the
They're
NBA.
2 different playoffs, and that's why I'm explaining to you why. They're 2 different playoffs. So we got NBA third, WNBA fourth, MLB fifth.
Then
So you're
NFL.
saying NHL is number 1?
Yeah.
So NHL has the most exciting playoffs.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
fights. There's fights in it. I go watch somebody get punched in the face.
Okay, so NHL has the most exciting because there's fights.
Yeah.
NFL has it because it's one game.
Yeah.
NBA.
Well, no, playoffs.
The playoffs are only one game in the NFL. There's only one game in the playoffs. It's a one-game format. Remember, these are all brackets. These are best of 7 series. These ones are.
Yeah. So
The NFL is one game. Is that why you think it's like the second best? Because any given Sunday somebody can win.
Yeah.
Okay. And then NBA and WNBA.
Hockey should be one game.
NBA.
I just want to see people get punched.
NBA and WNBA, you're basically saying those are together, and MLB you're saying is last, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
MLB is boring.
So, my rankings are completely different, okay? NFL is the number one. It is the most exciting. It's one day, one game, best player, man up, grab your nuts, let's go. Whoever wins, wins. It doesn't matter if you have an off day, okay? NHL is last. So I do not, NHL should not be, I don't watch much of it, but anytime that an 8 seed can beat a 1 seed and it happens on a regular basis, that's kind of exciting. But that means your regular season doesn't matter and your seedings aren't right to me. Like, there's multiple times that an 8 seed beats a 1 seed, or more times it's happened in the NHL than it has happened anyplace else.
I don't know. I watch it for the fights.
So, this is hard, okay? So, I'm going to put MLB third. And the reason for that is they have the play-in game, and their first games is only best of 5. So they have the play-in wildcard game, which adds a lot more excitement to it because you don't know what teams can happen. And a lot of times those wildcard teams have gone on to win. So they have that play-in game that they added a couple years later, which makes the playoffs more exciting to me because it comes down to one game. I wish they would do more one games than that. WNBA is second. And the reason why the WNBA is second is, look, I'm not saying the WNBA is the most exciting sport. And I'm almost 100% positive it's a best of 1 series leading up until the finals. And then it goes to best of 5. But they reseed after every single round. So, based off of who you play, you could be the 13th seed or the last team in there. And because of that, you're supposed to play like the 1 seed or whatever. But they're like, we're reseeding that based off of how you won in your record. And then you get a better, in my opinion, better matches. Better games. The games are not as much fun because women's NBA it's good. It's just a lot different type of a sport. But if the NBA would adopt that, that would be amazing. If MLB would adopt that, that would be amazing. If NHL would adopt that, that would be amazing. First couple series is 1 game, 2 games, or best of 3 series, best of 1, best of 3, and then best of 5. There's too many games. I love the NBA. The NBA is my favorite sport, but it has the most boringest playoffs in the world. The first round lasts for 2 weeks. It lasts forever. The first round is the most exciting because of the fact that there's 3 games on every other day, but they take half the league, so it's 8 teams in each league, each conference, and they play 7 games in all of them. Watching the Golden State Warriors a couple years ago dog teams out, even the Pelicans beat them, is not fun. Watching your number 1 seed beat your number 8 seed is not fun. There's only been 3 times in the NBA that the 8 seed has beat the 1 seed. And in 2 of those, one of those, the MVP got injured, so that shouldn't even count. So in all the NBA games that you've had, and the 7 seed rarely beats the 2 seed. The best NBA game during the playoffs is a 4-5 and a 3-6. Too many games. I don't want to watch 4 games of somebody blowing them out. The first week is kind of boring because of that reason. And then, once you get into the rest of the games, they're too spread out. It's 1 game, a break, 1 game, 2 breaks, 2-day rest, 3-day rest, 1 game. Because of the flights and all that other stuff. So I get it, you want to make it healthy and stuff like that, and you want to make sure everybody has enough time to rest, but I think that drags it on a lot more. And then there are times that the NBA finals just suck. They just fucking suck, okay? Last year's finals, they were pretty good with the Raptors and the Warriors, but if the Warriors were full strength, they would have been a lot better. The 2 years before that, where the Warriors blew out the Cavs 4-1 and 4-0, that was no fun. The year before that, when the Cavs came back, that was an amazing finals. The year before that, when the Cavs lost to the Warriors 3-2, that really wasn't that fun because LeBron had nobody. The year before that, when the Miami Heat lost to the Spurs in 5, that sucked. When the Heat and the Spurs went to 7 games, that was good. So we're already back in like 2013, and I've named 2 good NBA finals. The year that the Miami Heat beat the Thunder, that was not a good finals. 4-1, not good. The games were okay, but not good. When the Dallas beat the Heat, wasn't very good. Wasn't very good. That's a lot of times you have a battle of nutrition. It's designed for the best team to win. But at the same time, it's designed to be boring as hell.
I can't believe you put the NHL in last.
I don't care about fights.
I do.
I don't care about fights. I agree with Vince. The NHL should be one game.
I like to watch people get their teeth knocked.
I believe the NHL should be one game with the contact that it has. I also have trouble with the sport, which I got to learn more about, when there is an enforcer. Like you don't do nothing. You just enforce shit. You just come in and hit people.
Right.
I
love it.
That's not
amazing.
That's not talented.
Look, I will go be an enforcer. Give me a back brace.
I know you would. I definitely know you would be an enforcer easily.